Hello, everybody. I'm Gil, and this is Rockin the Love. The lovely Robyn will be joining us shortly. This is the first Wednesday in July 2023. We're really happy you've joined us, and we're excited today to again have a time together with you. So we have a special guest today. We have a topic. Oh my gosh, we have a topic. It is called um, relationship liberation. It's about liberating your relationships, liberating yourself, finding out what that's about. Hello. Well, she's almost here with us. Okay, so welcome everyone. And once again, please be sure that you let us know that you're here. Make a comment so that we know who's on. Ask a question, like a page. Just do the whole thing. We'll be looking for you. So you can see Robyn, but we can't hear her yet. She's thinking about it. Welcome, Shay. Thanks so much for being with us today. So we get the opportunity today to have our friend Kevin Cottle with us for a little discussion around relationships. So we're excited about that. And of course, as usual, we're excited to have Sherry Lynn with us. Welcome, welcome. I know she's a big fan of Kevin, so that's good. So while we're getting ready here, are you there yet? We see you. We don't hear you.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Oh, so good.
And Sherry Lynn is here. It's a party.
So you made it. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Have you been bantering amongst yourself?
I've been bantering amongst myself. Yeah, and what I've discovered is it's rather boring.
You know, I thought it was the best way to let you know.
Oh, that's what. So this was designed. Oh, I get it.
Yeah. Hi. I haven't seen you. There you are.
Yeah. So, how's your week?
My week is active.
Active?
Yeah, you know, it's like when they tell you to be actively engaged and listen in your listening and your your beingness. Yeah, it's active. I mean, once again, God bless the children that allow us to remember so many things that we may have forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
like like being a teenager. So yeah, it's been an active week here. I had one of our godchildren all by myself for the week while our sister was in New Mexico with Gil. So the whole family was there except for the two of us. And it was lively, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
I
That's
think,
how it
you
goes.
know, it really just brings up, I mean, boys and girls are so different. I mean, I know we all know this, but I mean, just developmentally and
Uh-huh.
and, like I, my experience of 14-year-old girls is that they don't spend as much time lying and trying to figure things out. They're busy talking about boys or things,
Nail polish
nail
or
polish or
something.
fashion or what somebody said or did. And I mean, it's fascinating. It's a fascinating adventure.
It is an adventure. And of course, having a relationship with teenagers, particularly ones that you're responsible for, um, is an interesting thing. And I'm kind of hoping today's, relationship liberation might give us the opportunity to liberate some of those relationships a little
Great.
bit.
I'm all in. let's let's move right along to the good news then. Forget your week. Let's just talk about the good news.
Whew.
Sound like a plan?
Yep.
Or you have something exciting
Okay.
to say
No,
about
I
your
don't have
week?
anything exciting to share except that I made it through the week. I've bicycled a few times. That's been good. And I got bit by mosquitoes. That's about it. That's the big news right there from Lake Wobegon here.
I think you know
So
what's really fascinating about being a married couple living in two different places. One of the things that's really fascinating to me is how different our weather is. You know, like it's like, because usually that's a commonality that we're sharing, but like it can be freezing here and foggy and the blah 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 and 92 there, and all of that. It's weird. It's weird to not have you in the same zone like that.
Yeah.
It's just me. Like I
It's,
said, we should have gone to the good news.
well, yep. Well, let's welcome Taffy. Thanks for joining us. That's great to have you with us today. Woohoo! We got a little bit of a crowd happening out there. Fun.
Yay, crowds are fun. Okay, so our good news. So this is the part where we talk about what's good in the world, because God knows we all need to hear that sometimes. So what do you have?
Okay, here's what I have. It's summertime. Everyone likes to go somewhere, get in the water and do that stuff, right? And we've all been in that creek where we slip and fall because the moss is all over the rocks. And it's annoying, and we think, why, God, does there have to be moss? It messes up my day. Well, apparently moss absorbs 6 times more CO2 than other plant life. So there you go. It's actually a pollution fighter.
Nice.
And that's why we have it. And who knew that? Who knew that before? I didn't know that.
It's out there doing good work in the world.
It's doing good work in the world. That's right.
It's not just a fungus. Right? No, really, because sometimes it's kind of slimy, and you'd think you could just disregard it. Like, why bother?
Yeah.
It's doing something.
But isn't that a great metaphor for lots of things? We just look at the surface and say, there's my judgment, and then think that's all there is to it.
Yeah, or we look at the surface and think it's slimy.
That's what I mean. I mean, we just go, oh, that's just slimy. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you can see on this program, we don't necessarily practice what we preach. We do not speak from the eye all the time. However, that was his experience and only his experience. You do not have to take it on.
Oh, all no, right. I there's others with the same experience. I know.
And I'm sure Reverend Sherry Lynn will put something in the chat and tell you she agrees with you, because she's your people. So, okay, let me tell you about mine. There is a magician who is a good working magician out there named John Stessel, and he's in New Jersey. And what he normally performs for, big crowds and adoring fans and all that, but what he has decided to do is he goes out and he goes to the pounds, dog pounds, and he performs magic for the dogs, because the dogs help. He says it's one of his little superpowers is that he can help the dogs show off in a way that they couldn't without him, because they perk up with magic. So he does things like, make something disappear, and you know how dogs are. They have it right there, and then they're like, and they get all animated. And so he brings out their personality, and in turn, more animals and dogs are getting adopted more and more. So he's out there giving his time. That's how he's doing his service. And I thought that was super sweet.
Man, anything,
right?
Anything that we do can be a service. There you go. I mean, there it is. Who knew? Magic and animals. I'm thinking, I noticed you didn't say like pet shelter or whatever. And I'm guessing it doesn't work on cats. I'm just guessing. I don't know.
I don't know. We've had some cats that they would work on. I don't know. All right. Okay. So I encourage everybody to think about what's your superpower and how can you be serving in the world like that. And we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back here on New Thought Media Network.
Welcome back, everybody.
Back. I'm Robyn.
And I'm Gil. And this is Rockin the Love.
Yes.
And we are excited that we get to introduce our guest for the day. And wow. So here's the thing. I looked over Rev Kevin's bio and I found that I figured out part of why he and I relate to one another well, because we have this ability to move from this thing to that thing to the other thing and dive into it. However, his bio is much more organized and more readable than mine would be. So welcome, Rev Kevin. Appreciate it. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
So some of that stuff that I didn't know about you was your bachelor's in music. That's great. I don't know why I didn't know that, but I didn't. And then from doing music and production and that stuff to race car stuff.
Yeah,
And then
that's a natural, right?
it's a natural segue. And I know there's been some work with film and teaching and school and tech and all that stuff. And of course, you're a minister. So all that being said, you are uniquely qualified to talk about our topic today, the relationship liberation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why? Why are you able to talk about that?
I've come to a point in my life where it is important for me, for my relationships to be freeing in some way. Having done relationships that were not so freeing in the past. And it is in large part due to my spirituality, my spiritual practices, this journey that I've committed to, 2-3 decades ago. And so much of what I hear about in relationships that are challenges pertain to ways in which people are kind of binding themselves in an unhealthy way or chaining themselves in an unhealthy way to any given relationship. And this is just the general term of relationship, whether it is the ability just to wave hi to a stranger while you're walking around, or those closest, deepest, most intimate relationships between spouses, between parents and children, and everything in between. How one goes about that and how one puts their intentions and therefore their thinking, their feeling, their activities in the relationship all fall from that. So as somebody like me approaches relationships with a fairly clear line of this relationship is liberating and freeing in some way, starting with me, but also the question becomes, is my participation in a relationship, helping to liberate the other person, helping to free the other person? And, I have a quote from Nelson Mandela. I don't know if we can put that up real quick or not.
I think we can. I think Michael will find it.
right.
There it is.
And most folks know this. For to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. And this is really the essence of this relationship liberation. Being mindful that you are in relationship and being mindful of the potential for that relationship to be liberating, to be freeing. And this liberation freeing theme is kind of a common theme in July, so I wanted to invite Gil and Robyn to talk about it. But it's nice to know, there's two parts to liberation and freedom. One is, what are you getting free from? What are you getting liberated from? What chains are you laying down? And therefore, what in its place are you picking up? What about that new perception that is easing your load and easing the load of someone else?
That sounds interesting. Robyn, I can see your brain is churning.
Well, I think no. Well, what I find interesting, I mean, before we go to that question, is what is for is kind of the oxymoron of like relationships being liberating, because a lot of times we're looking for a relationship to be more tied down, more secure, more, it, you know, you know what I mean. It has a You don't go, oh, let me practice what I preach. I don't go into a relationship thinking, oh, this is going to be so free, you know. So I just think that I'm still wrapping my brain around that particular piece, like, and yes, I get it. And when I'm in a relationship that it serves me, like I asked myself, are is my relationship with Gil freeing? And it's an interesting question to go into that space of like, is it liberating? Does it give me that feeling of freedom? So that was what I was thinking about. Not to answer the question, but that's just what I was thinking about.
Well, I will speak in a little bit about the paradox of that being tied in a relationship versus it being free. But the image that comes to mind is something I call the golden cord, which is this sort of magical attachment that a person has heart to heart. And this golden cord has a long lead. It's a long cord, meaning that, you know, a person I was in a active, close relationship with, say, in high school, 20, 40 years later, I can kind of pick up where I left off with this person. So that golden cord that ties hearts is one that is helping each person's heart to grow. It's a continuation. It is a timeless connection, and it is a connection that has a lot of flexibility to it. There's a lot that each person can contribute, and therefore each person can derive from that golden cord that ties hearts.
Wow. That's interesting concept. I hadn't heard it put that way before. But yeah, I mean, I know there's always those people that we can sort of we can move in and out of relationship with, at least on the surface. But in reality, there's always that underlying connection. It's always there, and we can walk right into it, and suddenly we're able to move forward right from where we are without any interruption, if you will. So, I was thinking, I mean, some of us obviously have been at places where we would like to be liberated from a relationship. And there, but that idea that a relationship actually, when we're in positive relationship with ourselves, with others, it actually frees us up to become more of who we are. It actually changes the playing field. And if that's happening, then I would hope that I am also doing the same for someone else in the relationship, because it's such a positive thing, and everyone needs that opportunity. And really, we're here to support each other to be our whole and full and complete selves. So in theory, relationships should allow us to have a place where we can speak freely, where we can, whatever the things are that will support us at that particular point, those things become part of that relationship.
Marianne Williamson says the role of intimate relationships, is to midwife each other's perfection. And I kind of extend that to any relationship has the potential to, as Gil just said, to bring out the best in each person. And the distinction and the context that, because a lot of what we're talking about today are just basic relationship principles, but we have the opportunity to give it a spiritual, a science of mind context. And the context in this case is that role that relationship can play if given the conscious intention. And this is the distinction I try to talk about in this theme, and I'll talk more about it on Sunday, is the conscious relationship versus the unconscious relationship. In the unconscious relationship, it's all about the other. In the conscious relationship, the other is me. And that's, something I learned from my study in A Course in Miracles a long time ago. And it's good news, bad news, right? The bad news is, oh, it's all about me. This really has little or nothing to do with the other person. And the good news is, because it's all about me, then I have the tools, the skills, the opportunity, the support to, to dig into that and to heal whatever is not healed and to grow in consciousness in ways that I have not grown in consciousness until this relationship has come along in my life. So that distinction between, kind of being asleep in relationship versus being awake in relationship, the unconscious versus the conscious way of going about participating in choosing, setting intention around relationship, that's a big difference for me. And that in and of itself is very liberating, because there were so many relationships in my life that I was just unconsciously drawn into. And oftentimes those relationships were not all that healthy for me. And I suppose from the fly on the wall, it was not all that healthy a relationship, all told, objectively. But having, again, knowing more about myself, more about my tendencies, and again, gets into this introverted versus extroverted tendency. But what we're talking about today is true for anyone, that being empowered to make a choice about entering into a relationship eyes wide open, heart open, mind open, versus just sort of falling or lapsing into these things without a clear intention. There's a big difference in how those relationships go.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, spoiler alert, if you don't know, there's only one of us here, right? And so if I start to take that in, but if when I'm in a relationship, I mean, and I think the natural tendency is when you're in a relationship, at some point I tend to want more, not more than the relationship, but I mean, more. Even let's just say in my relationship with Gil, it's like, I want what Gil wants. I want what's best for him. I want different things. So I start to put more emphasis on those things, and then that doesn't feel liberating to me. That feels like I'm held down by my own, desires or intentions, or however we choose to look at them. And like I'm thinking about, like, the times in a relationship, or the relationships I've had in my life that do feel free, that do, or that have felt like, it's very rare for me anyway in a relationship to really have no expectations.
Is that what's required for liberation? Is no expectations?
It isn't for me, but this is me and not Robyn. So
Right. No, that's why I was asking the question, because that probably varies.
and there's a slight distinction between expectation and intention, right? I'm more of a fan of and using intention in my life. I set the intention for the greatest possibilities, the greatest potentials to come forward, to manifest, to demonstrate in any given relationship. So, and it's a wide open intention, but for me, it's important to have that consciousness going in. And it isn't a once and done thing for me. it is an ongoing process. So anyone
Yeah.
with whom I am in relationship, I am setting and resetting those positive intentions about how I be in the relationship and how the relationship itself is, growing, healing, expanding, being something that is mutually beneficial. And of course, that's one of my points about conscious relationship is that there is a mutuality, and the mutuality may or may not come organically. It's great when it does. It's wonderful when it does, especially if you're attuned to it, if you're consciously aware of it. But ordinarily, it's kind of come about by conscious intention, by each person in that relationship alternately supporting the other in whatever it is that might be coming up for healing and growth.
Right. And I think Sherry Lynn speaks to it in what I was trying to say in a different way, where she says, "What does ACIM say about having passion in relationship with someone, or wanting a passionate relationship? I struggle with ACIM's definition of what is detachment. I understand detachment and not being needy, but I also love passion, and sometimes that can seem needy." And ACIM, for anyone who doesn't know, is A Course in Miracles.
Well, and if I can put my interpretation on this A Course in Miracles particular notion, concept, A Course in Miracles makes a distinction between special relationships and sacred relationships. And in special relationships, there is a kind of egoic, in the sense of selfishness, something that is born out of false beliefs about separation and lack and scarcity and density. In the sacred relationship, there is this conscious connection. And it isn't an automatic thing, like I say. This is something that in the Course you are taught about how to identify and therefore amplify, strengthen that conscious connection with the sacred. So the passion that one feels, one can feel passion in a special relationship, and that has its function because all relationships are teaching each person about something about themselves, something to heal and grow. And that passion in the sacred relationship is detached from anything that is egoic, anything that is connected to being separate. I got my passion over here. I don't know if that other person's got that passion over there. That would be the special relationship form of passion. In the sacred relationship, the passion is there is passion happening here, and it's happening for me. And I bet it's happening for the other person because I am holding that consciousness for this passion to flow in this relationship, because this passion is of living spirit. This passion is of God. And therefore within each person is that passion. And gee, this person in this relationship is really firing up that passion. That's great. And I don't put any spin on it. I don't give it a rating. Oh, well, this is a 6 versus that's an 8 kind of a passion. No, it's just this passion that is, it's just deeply heart-rooted. It is felt. It is emoted. And it is respected. It is acknowledged in that relationship. So, Sherilyn, I hope that helps a little bit in sort of tweezing out. The Course in Miracles is kind of thick, as everybody who has read it and done the course knows. And, when you come across an idea, a principle about passion and detachment and the special relationship versus the sacred relationship, you have to do a lot of reading and unravel a lot of stuff to try to get to the point. And Marianne Williamson, for me, was the one who went before and unraveled most of this. And especially in Return to Love, that's the book in which she unravels most of this stuff about relationship that come from A Course in Miracles.
Well, I think what I caught in there was I think there's a detachment from judging or requiring it of someone in a relationship, but it's still an acknowledgement and a desire to have it in the relationship, or something around that kind of idea. We're not requiring anything from someone else. We're participating with them in it. So I wanted to go back for a second, and I just wanted to acknowledge Shay's comment about her friend who made his transition, and just touch again on this whole idea of how we have these different relationships and they all serve in different ways, and how much we get to be in gratitude for those that have come along and crossed our paths and been with us in different ways, whether they were online completely or old friends online or friends we see every day or whatever it is. There's a role that everybody plays, and when we have liberating relationships that are liberated, we are able to engage with those people in a way that lifts us and them at the same time. And so I'm sure Peter was served greatly by Shay's presence in his life.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Gil. Yeah, and that's an aspect of mutuality.
And is mutuality something that's innate in us? Do we just do it? Do we really get it, or is that a learned behavior, if you will?
Well, for me, it's probably more learned. As I mentioned, my pattern for relationships, I knew and practiced all the unhealthy ways to be in a relationship, and the
You've practiced those? Okay, good. All
yeah,
right,
yeah.
excellent.
So
Okay.
they were well worn in my repertoire, and so it does still to this day work better for me to be conscious of mutuality, to be sensitive to the balance, the dynamic. And when I refer to dynamic, I talk about the amplitude, the frequency, the phase. Those are the dynamic components that occur in spirituality. They occur in relationships. So, strength and depth of feeling, that would kind of be the amplitude, kind of being in relationships where each person's tempo in life, you know, kind of jibes. And the phase would be, if a parent's in a relationship with a child, they know the child's going through phases. The adult's an adult in an adult phase for the entire time the child is going through all those developmental phases. So again, in relationships, there are times when those phases kind of sync up, those life phases, and particularly in spousal relationships, that is an important component for me, for the person with whom I am involved to be kind of in that same life stage, that life phase. And all of those relationship dynamics contribute to or are part of mutuality. And when there isn't mutuality, it's kind of a one-sided deal, right? There is there is one person putting forth a lot, contributing a lot to the relationship, and that might feel great for them. And the other person, at least during that time, that phase, is not contributing in like kind or in like time. And again, long-term committed relationships negotiate and navigate all of these kinds of ebbs and flows. It's the form of relationship that changes based on reaching kind of, for lack of a better term, disconnect points. Doesn't mean it won't reconnect at some other point, but relationships will reach a disconnect point to where the activities of those relationships, the everyday actions of those relationships, stop being what they are being and turn into something else radically different for a time. for a period. And sometimes that means that that relationship just lives on in one's memory for the rest of this phase of one's soul's journey. And sometimes that means that those paths cross again and diverge again and cross again and diverge again. And sometimes those paths come together in parallel for quite a long period of time. So, it's the old reason, season, lifetime phases of relationships.
Yeah, which I think is really important. Because I was thinking about this. So here's what happens when I sit with Rev Kev and Rev Gil, is that I feel very intimidated and I feel like I'm processing so much because you guys spout out these things of like grandeur and I have to like reevaluate and dissect it and think about it and process. I get all intimidated with you too. But I'm speaking now. So what I was thinking about is it actually with Shay, in Shay's case with Peter, and how it's not really over. That it's as you spoke of, it's a phase, it's a stage, it's a different stage of being together or being in life, right? And I was just thinking about the different stages that all of our relationships go through, like that, and whether the people are here, or whether they've transitioned, or whether you've had a breakup, or like still those life lessons from people that I've broken up with or don't know along the way keep coming back, and they come into my consciousness or my awareness. So like in some ways we always continue to travel the journey with them, even even when we don't want to.
Well,
Well, I was thinking too about somebody that Robyn and I were good friends with, and then um, we hit a point where we just said we gotta tell you what's honestly going on for us, and we can't. We listen to you tell us the same story, and then nothing changes, and you tell us the same story, and nothing changes, and we're not going to talk about the same story anymore, and that relationship took a turn for disconnection. But part of that for us, I think, was to liberate ourselves from the feeling that we were just spending time where it wasn't valued. And I think that happens in different relationships in different ways. And sometimes you got to go with it. You've got to look at what is it that needs to happen. And I think in some ways it may well have liberated the other person as well to move on, because now they had to either find someone else to listen, or they had to really think about what was going on, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, isn't that the essence of what we all do, right? I mean, I'm guessing that's why you two do what you do as ministers, and sometimes we I mean, and as a practitioner with clients, I mean, we sit with them and serve them that way until we don't, you know, or we continue to. But you know what I mean? Like those relationships are in some way you two especially you're in relationship with people you don't even know and liberating them. You know, for example, you may never see Shay again, Rev Kev, and I mean, but just your words today may be a liberating thing. Hmm.
yeah.
Makes me think twice about ministerial school. Not so. Anyway, enough about me. Um,
I
yeah, but
did. I
I think
did want to talk about some ways in which people can be more conscious in their relationships, and I'll just throw out a list of things here, and we'll see where that takes us. But I do want to share with folks that there are things that you can do, practices, if you will, that will help you in all of your relationships. The first one is to lead with compassion. The next one is to listen and learn, to be a excellent listener, and that really just tends to excellent communication skills. To own your stuff. Relationships are a mirror, that whatever you're seeing or noticing in the other person is pretty much what you're working with, no matter what it is they're actually doing. So own your stuff and take turns.
Oh, I remember that one from elementary school.
Yeah,
Take
yeah,
turns.
take turns. And we already talked a lot about mutuality, making that a conscious intention, and to allow for time and place offsets in a relationship. Sometimes those are momentary, and those are probably the more important ones, but sometimes they, a little like, the form that Gil and Robyn's relationship is in right now, that is a place offset. Now, that does not, you know, as far as love and living spirit is concerned, nothing can be destroyed. Everything is always present, and therefore their relationship ordained by living spirit and joined into by living spirit, Gil and Robyn joined into that. That offset of time and place only serves to grow and expand their relationship in some way. They may not know the specifics of it, but the intention is to allow for this kind of phase, this kind of difference or change, that offset of time and place. So, what do folks feel? What things do you, of those things I just listed off, how can we support you in practicing those conscious relationship skills?
Well, I want to go back to, so what was the first one?
Be compassionate, lead with compassion.
Okay, I don't want to talk about that one yet.
Okay, listen
I
and
wanna go-
learn is the next one.
Yeah, I want to go to that one. I want to go to listen and learn because I think people, I mean, what I experience being with a lot of kids and a lot of people in workshops and things is I think listening is really a challenge, and I think it's an art because I think that when people hear like just the buzzword or when they think they know what you're talking about, they immediately start to form an answer or a retort or whatever, and it's like that's like it's almost like meditation. Can When you say listen, can you just listen, even if you know the answer, even if you have a solution, even if you have, can you just listen? And I find practicing that, I actually find that in my relationship with Gil, when I just listen, usually that allows the space to learn more, or if even if it's not learning more, it allows the space for Gil or anyone I'm talking to to express what they need to express. And I think sometimes in a relationship we don't always get to say what we need to, like especially if it's in a heated time. Like
Yeah.
I can't, if I'm trying to tell Gil, like we had an example the other day, and I just wanted him to hear me. I just wanted him to hear me. And then, well, I wanted him to understand, but, you know, I wanted him to be able to respond to what I needed. And so I think, I mean, for me, like of all those things, they're all very important. And I don't know that you can do them without being able to listen. I don't know that you can be compassionate. I don't know that you can do the other things. So I just think that's just such an important thing.
And
Yeah.
thank you. I just want to remind folks that this exercise is just repeating back, setting aside all of your stuff for the moment, listen to the other person and be able to repeat back to them exactly what they said to you. And that means that you're listening without, as Robyn said, trying to form a response or a retort. You're listening just to be able to remember what that person said, so much so that you can repeat it back to them. That's huge. Just being able to do that is huge. Then you repeat it back to that person, and that person responds with, I think you heard me. Or that person responds with, that's not exactly what I meant, let me clarify. But it creates a path of communication that is kind of liberating. It's really kind of freeing, where I can set aside my stuff and I can just be present for the other person and really, really, really get everything of what they're saying, so much so that I can repeat it back to them. There I am in compassion. That moves me to a compassionate poise. And in that compassionate poise, I can be that presence, that supporter, that unconditional supporter. I'm setting aside everything else. I'm not putting any spin on it. I'm just going to be there for that other person. And it's a magnificent thing to witness for both parties. So I strongly encourage. It's a simple, silly thing, but for any kind of relationships, if the other person is willing to do it, just from time to time, just do that exercise and see what comes out of it.
But wait, I don't think it's that simple or that silly. Because I'll tell you, from being in relationship, even if you can repeat back the words,
Mm-hmm.
if it has that nuanced tone that wasn't what I said, but I know what that means when he says, when he imitates my tone in that way, I mean, it can take you to a whole different place. So it's really, I mean, I think as the person listening, I mean, this is obviously if it's personal and it's about you, but being the person listening, you have to be willing in that moment to put your feelings aside and not want to defend, you know, not want to defend and, protect yourself. And because it's the opening for all of the guard and shields to go up, right?
Oh yeah.
And so it's really,
Well,
I think it's important to be able to do back and forth, once you really get one person's perspective thing down, and then go to the other person because it has probably brought up something. Why
well,
are you all so quiet out there
it,
now?
it goes to that thing of owning your own stuff. And I think for me, what I've experienced is that when I feel less than or something's not going on right for me or whatever, then what I'm really doing is trying to defend something that I can't even define for you, but I'm defending my honor or my integrity or my something. You know, I don't even know what it is, but it's that sense of somehow, and I assume it's, kind of that egoic thing of just defending that this is why I exist. I'm here. I'm really here, and you can't tell me, or whatever the thing is. And so I think the huge thing is um, to be able to do exactly what Robyn said, and that's step out of taking anything personally when you're actually listening, so that you're actually listening, and also shutting up long enough to hear the whole thing. Right? How easy is to not hear everything because there's an issue with, something that's said at some point, and that's got to do with struggling through my own stuff, I think, usually.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think also, I mean, we're all human. We all feel the pain, and we things that if it wasn't our intention, I think one of the things is really being able to breathe and take that in, that whatever the action was that you did or whatever, how it made somebody else feel. And, we want to defend it as opposed to going, oh my gosh, I never meant to hurt you, or I never meant to, cause you pain, or I didn't, want you to feel that way, and really, realizing the impact of what we do. And, that's though, that's no simple exercise,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, if we're really going to liberate relationships, then we also have to then, with that acknowledgement, also liberate ourselves and release ourselves from 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 beating ourselves up about those places where we've done that, or we do that, or somewhere in that liberation has to be the opportunity to go, yeah, I screwed that up. Sorry. But without all of the, oh, it's so terrible. And, because
The
now
judgment,
I'm just holding myself back again. And in which case I'm going to project that out onto someone else.
right? For releasing ourselves from the judgment, and I think that that's part of the freedom, right? That's the liberation. That's when we're really free.
Yep.
Is when we're able to not take all those things on and move in the world. I mean, it's liberating to think that we really don't have to know all this. We
Yeah,
can
and there's no fixing the other person in a relationship too. I mean, that's the surface layer attachment is, oh, I'm going to listen to this person and fix the problem.
Right.
At least this is a male perspective, right? This is kind of a
Yep.
go-to, but it could be anybody in relationship because I observe that sort of fixing thinking in all different relationship dynamics. The purpose, is to midwife the other person's perfection. So your presence in that relationship, your ability to, to set aside, to be present, and to value that person's communication so much so that you want to really just, be a true empath to it. That's the way you can start to be that presence, that compassionate presence.
That's right.
A Course in Miracles sort of says this, I paraphrase it all the time, that the only thing lacking in any given circumstance, condition, relationship is the love one is withholding, is the good one is withholding. And it leads to a whole different set of principles and practices in A Course in Miracles. But it's an interesting thing to think about. If I am going to be a listener, is there anything I'm withholding right now? And why? And if there's something good that I'm withholding, can I set that aside? Put a pin in that, take it to the parking lot or whatever, so that I can be as loving and compassionate in this moment for that other person as I possibly can. And in so doing, that is liberating for that person who is looking at what they might be withholding, because the love we're withholding is attached to something, some kind of a weight, some kind of a error thought, some kind of a pattern or belief that is wanting to be healed. It's wanting to be brought to conscious awareness so it can be changed.
Yes. Yes, 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 Rev Kev. Thank you so much. I can't believe we're out of time. But I would love for you to send us those principles so that we can make them available to people. And if they want to hear you on Sunday, do you have a place where they go?
Well, at Vita's Spiritual Learning Center, this week I'm doing the talk. It'll be on Vita's YouTube channel and on Vita's Facebook.
Beautiful.
And that drops at 9 a.m. on Sundays. And throughout the week we have other offerings, but it's VIDA at vidaslc.org. And folks can reach me through my YouTube channel or the Vita Facebook and YouTube as well.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. I know there is a lot of value given out here. So thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Taffy. Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you, Shay.
And we don't usually do this, but I am just moved to close us out in a short prayer, sending lots of love and light to all of us, knowing that Peter is soaring to his greatest yet to be, and that as he does, he embraces not only Shay and the Facebook community, but he embraces us all, and he reminds us of Rev Kev's words that basically just don't hold back on the love, people. Let's rock it. And so it is.
And
So rock the love, everybody. And then we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye now.